C10 Demonio Dinaja Abarera Legos Ram Ori Banish 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 C10 Demonio Dinaja Abarera Legos Abarera Legos Rambori Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja 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 Abarera Legos Ram Ori 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 Banish C10 Demonio Dinaja Abarera Legos Ram Ori
Hello, everyone. As we begin, as always, hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Paimon, hail Baphomet, hail thyself. We reject the Trinity, we reject the baptism of John, and we reject the baptism of the Spirit. It is good to see everyone, and some new faces as well. So to answer the question, is this show about practicing magic? There's definitely an element of that, most definitely. There are many things that we discuss in this show. So, partly magic, partly philosophy, partly theology. Looking at kind of like a modern application to the Satanic Bible in a theistic manner. So we believe that there are atheistic Satanists, there are theistic Satanists, there are demonologists, there are many different walks of life when it comes to magic. When we look at low magic and high magic and the differences between those. Many people like to talk about high magic like it's something better than low magic, and it's no better or worse than high or low magic. They're the same. It's just low magic, the way that I define these things is low magic is for material gain. It is of the earth. That is low magic, hence it being low, right? It opens up the possibilities for material gain and things of that nature. So we use low magic when we work with herbs or we do spells for financial gain or love and things of that nature, things that we want to obtain on this earthly plane, external from ourselves. That is how I describe low magic. I'm sure that there's people out there that would disagree with me, but as is the way. High magic is simply knowledge. It is simply gnosis. It is looking to be guided and to be shown the things that are truly hidden. It does not necessarily or inherently work in tandem with obtaining anything outside of communication with the entities that you choose to work with. So that is how I would define the difference between low and high magic. I hope everyone is doing well this week. This wonderful Sin Day. So we're renaming the day to Sin Day. We're reclaiming Sunday. I don't know if it was ever ours, but we're taking it anyway. So, Candace, good to see you. Grey Mage, good to see you. Evoluge, good to see you. Lady Tessa, always a pleasure to see you. It's good to see everyone here. So we're going to begin reading. I acknowledge and accept that you may not have the answers to my questions, but perhaps you could help me ask better questions. How do you go about identifying and understanding your true will? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Your true will. All right, so before we start reading, it's very rare that I stop reading before I start reading to answer a question, but this is a question that I believe should be answered. Carl Jung talks a lot about that. Yes. Jungian psychology is a huge thing, especially in the left-hand path. It definitely lends itself to a left-hand path nature, personal accountability and the such, right? It's good to hear. It's good to hear. So identifying and understanding your true will. It's a process, I believe. Because it depends on what you mean by your will. Your will is what you want. Your will is what you want to get out of something, right? So your will in a situation changes depending on the situation and the circumstance, right? It's like to say, what is God's will? Right? Nobody knows what God's will is. It just is, right? And as such, as many of us as occultists like to identify ourselves as our own personal gods, that we know that we can create, manipulate, and move the world around us, so does our will change. And I believe that identifying and understanding our will in a given situation is dependent upon that situation. I do not believe that as human beings we have a one-off only distinct will throughout our entire lives. That's impossible. We're constantly being bombarded with different stimulus and situational circumstances that our will needs to change within that circumstance. I believe that the overall human instinctive will is to survive, right? Beyond that is to gain knowledge and to understand the world around us. And I believe that that is a universal law of will inside of human beings of themselves, regardless of situation and circumstance. How many times have you been in a bad situation and the first question that comes up is, why? Right? Why this? Right? Why did this happen? It's a desire to understand, especially when so many put their wills on us. We may not even know we carry out other people's will. Some people do it for a lifetime and they are miserable. This is true as well. This is true as well. Right? Other people, external forces can impose their own will. And to understand and identify what your will is, if that's the situation, to understand what the will is, it's inside of that statement, right? Some people do it for a lifetime and they are miserable, right? If you're living out somebody else's will and their desire for you, chances are you're not going to be happy within the situation that you're in. You're not going to be pleased. You're not going to be productive. And it's probably going to be the major sign that you're not in a situation where you should be. In canvassing literature in this realm, lowercase will often refer to our material aspirations and uppercase will refer to something higher. Yes, that is true as well, Grey Mage. Yes. So to identify your will, the first thing to know is what's the situation, what's the circumstance, what's surrounding it, right? So overall will, across the board, survival. Secondary, understanding what's happening around us, digging deeper. That's why we're occultists, right? Most of us get into the occult because at some point in our lives we lacked a level of control, right? Much like what Candace said, is that we lacked a level of control because someone else was trying to control us, whether that be the church, your family, whatever the situation may be. And we come across the occult, and the occult promises control of the world around you, control of your circumstances. And as we dig into the occult, we begin to realize that we understand that the situations that we're in, even if somebody is imposing their will on us, it's because we're allowing them to do so. No one can control you unless you allow them to. Subvertly or overtly, they cannot control you unless you allow them to do so. It is that simple. And it happens in relationships where one partner becomes more dominant than the other one. And most people don't even realize that that happens. That inside of the relationship, one person is calling all of the shots and the other one's just kind of rolling with the punches, which is never how a relationship should or ever should, like, is supposed to work. It happens inside of families, right? So there are many situations where these things happen. But your will, you will know what that will is inside of that situation. Now, would you mind elaborating on what a will of yours you are trying to identify with? And while you do that, we will begin reading, and we'll return to that question if Evie decides to divulge more detail that we can roll off of. White witchcraft groups say that if you curse a person, it will return to you threefold, come home to roost, or in some way boomerang back to the sender. This is yet another indication of the guilt-ridden philosophy which is held by these neo-pagan pseudo-Christian groups. White witches want to delve into witchcraft but cannot divorce themselves from the stigma attached to it. Therefore, they call themselves white magicians and base 75% of their philosophy on the trite and haggard tenets of Christianity. Anyone who pretends to be interested in magic or the occult for reasons other than gaining personal power is the worst kind of hypocrite. The Satanist respects Christianity for at least being consistent in the guilt-ridden philosophy, but can only feel contempt for people who attempt to appear emancipated from guilt by joining a witchcraft group and then practice the same basic philosophy as Christianity. So this right here is gospel. This right here is gospel. Now why? So here's the thing. I do believe in karma. Allow me to explain. We talked about this briefly. Let me adjust my microphone here. I apologize for any extra noises that might be making. So we talked about this in brief last week, where I mentioned kind of like we talked about the Matrix, of all things, but how philosophically the Matrix has very valid aspects to it. And inside of that, we talked about the definitions of love and karma, or really any word that indicates emotion. It's just a word. Now, this doesn't demean its value, but it is just a word. What is important is not the word, but the connection that word has. Karma is not an external force from the universe. Karma is your own spirit making you pay your own dues. That is what karma is. Right? And if you are void of empathy, if you are void of humanity, like there are some people in this planet that are, then the result is a lack of karma. Right? How so? Well, let's say you're driving in a storm. You swerve. There's somebody on the side of the road. You hit them. You kill that person. Anyone with a certain level of humanity or empathy, compassion, is going to be guilt-stricken for the accident. You're paying your own karma with the guilt that you feel for the action that took place, accident or not. Somebody that doesn't have that level of empathy, compassion, or humanity is going to do it again because they derive pleasure from it. And so what does this say for the universal karmic law concept that the evil man will get theirs, right? Because this is what it's about, right? This was used to keep people controlled and submissive, to not stand up, not even to somebody that wronged them, to sit there and believe that the universal karma is going to come around and kick them in the ass and they don't have to do anything. How many times have we seen this not to be true? How many times have we seen this not to be true? Which is why the Satanist, the person, the follower of the left-hand path, becomes the instrument of karma. It's that simple. Exactly. Karma doesn't come around and kick people in the ass. If there is no empathy, if there is no compassion, if there is no humanity, there is no karma. Because the karma that we suffer is the karma that we bring upon ourselves because we are good people, because we are good humans. That is where we suffer karma. In extension, we should be the instrument of karma. This is not to say, I'm not sitting here trying to tell people to throw on a bat suit and try to become a vigilante. Let's be realistic. There are many careers and opportunities that people can take to become an instrument of karma. Become a lawyer, become a police officer. Become an instrument of karma. Exactly. Stand up for yourself in a situation where you know you're being wronged. If somebody slaps you, punch them in the face. I want to make a significant change in my life. Get rid of all the noise and create myself what I'm worth. But I feel like I have no direction other than the motivation for change. That is all you need, is that motivation, my dear. Through that motivation, it will show you the way. So you want to make a significant change in your life. There are many different things that you can change inside of your life. Right? This is going to sound like an overly repeating broken record that people have said millions and millions of times again, and I understand that for some people it might not be that easy, but it is literally that easy. You don't like your job, change your job. You don't like where you live, move. You don't like the person that you're with, change the person that you're with. Whatever it is that you don't like about your life and where your life is, cut out the noise and move forward. It's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be. But if you have the motivation to do it, then you have a significant advantage that many people don't have. Because many people want that change, but they don't even have the motivation to do it. And because you have that motivation, that makes you a force to be fucking reckoned with. Because you have something that 90% of the people in this planet that sit there and say, I want a change in my life, don't have. They have zero fucking motivation to make any changes or to do anything at all. Learning how to write will allow you to organize your thought and be able to move differently in the world. Yes, this is true. Writing definitely does help. Changed my life, and I don't really look the world for my happiness anymore. It's perfectly well said. And for many people, there are many different things that allow them to do that. I'm writing a book, which is practically finished. I do this show. I do a show on Friday. These are ways that I push myself forward and put myself out there. You might not be able to tell by watching the show, but I'm a rather shy individual. If you ever meet me in person, I'm pretty quiet. I mean, once I get talking, then I don't shut up. But initially, I'm pretty quiet until I get to know you. Being able to do this has really helped me on a level of personal confidence, being able to say that, yes, my ideas are valid. Yes, my thoughts are valid. And these are things that many people aren't talking about in the way that I'm talking about them. These are things that people need to have heard. They need to understand that they do have the power. You don't like to hear things like personal accountability or personal responsibility. We don't like to hear those things because a lot of us don't like to sit there and say, well, I fucked up. We don't like to say that. It hurts. It hurts to admit that you were wrong. Commercials don't advertise these things. Yeah, no. So it hurts to admit that you were wrong, but it is an essential part of personal growth. Everyone is wrong at some point, at most points, to some degree. Being able to admit that and openly say, well, I screwed this up, but how can I make it better? What can I do moving forward? What changes can I make? And understanding and knowing at the end of the day, that's on you. It's not on anybody else. It's on you. That change is on you. You can do that. You have that power. That's the control that we've been looking for, that we've been dying for, craving for since we were fucking kids. Since we grew up in our little Christian families, being scolded for having interests or different music interests or different clothing interests or art or whatever the case may be, for questioning things that we shouldn't question, we've been dying to have control. And the beautiful thing about the left-hand path is the first thing that you should learn, the first thing you should understand. You always had it. You always had the control. It was always there. The only place you needed to look was inside of yourself. That was it. Everything else is a bonus. You've always had the control. No demon is needed to give it to you. No ritual, no spell, no god, no devil. The control and the power lives in you. Our rituals, our spells, our incantations, our potions, our search for knowledge is just knowing that there is something more out there. And we have access to it. Where every other religion and faith wants you to believe that you need to be blind and a sheep and follow a line until death, to question nothing. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be in a herd of sheep. I want to be in a pack of fucking wolves. Because the one thing that little metaphor misses every time is that a wolf never hunts alone. A wolf hunts in a pack. A wolf hunts with its family. That's the thing that misses. Is if someone who has been traumatized has a harsh inner critic that beats them up, would you say that this person has been possessed in a way? Exactly. Candace, exactly. Utilizing your anger. Your anger is fuel. And we'll talk more about emotions here in a moment. So, as someone, so if we want to talk about trauma, let's be open, right? I'll be open. I've talked about this many times. So, I mean, I was abused as a child. I was, had the shit kicked out of me almost daily by my stepfather. Told that I was worthless, told that I would never amount to anything, that no one would ever love me, that the basic shit that a narcissist throws at somebody that's weaker so that they feel better about themselves, essentially, right? And that had caused a problem for most of my life where everything I've ever done, I have suffered from ridiculous levels of imposter syndrome. That no matter how good I am at something, in my mind, I am never good enough. And it is something that has torn me apart for years and caused me to procrastinate and slow down. It's one of the reasons why the book is taking as long as it is. The book was supposed to be released about 1.5 years ago. The reason the book hasn't been released yet is because I'm constantly going back and I'm constantly changing things, because in my mind, I could never be an author. I could never write good enough for somebody to want to buy a book. So I'm trying to make it perfect, which I understand that it's never going to be perfect. And I understand that there's always going to be there's going to be critics and people that don't like it. But in my mind, because it's something that I've never done before, I hold myself back. I procrastinate. And I'm terrified to release the book. I am absolutely terrified to release the book. I am terrified that the people that are going to read it, that the critics that are going to get their hands on it are going to tear it apart and prove that little voice inside of my head that tells me I'm absolutely worthless true. So as someone that was traumatized and suffers from an extremely harsh inner critic, would I say that it's being possessed? I would say that it's being possessed by the energy that was presented to you when you were traumatized. I don't want to say that it's possession, like demonic possession, because I do not look at demons in that way. I look at demons in the ancient Greek mindset of them being guiding spirits, and that is it. So you listen to gangster rap and psych yourself up? Yeah, pretty much. So you are being possessed by the person that traumatized you. Yes, Candace, yes. So, and that is probably one of the most difficult possessions to break. Exactly what I was getting at, right? It's one of the most difficult types of possessions to break because it's not a spiritual possession, it's a psychological possession. We need to understand things as they are, right? We can't convert everything to spirituality for as much as we would like to. No spell or ritual is going to completely eliminate the traumatization or the negative responses that you're having towards things. The correct help and guidance through these situations and these emotions that you're having about yourself, these critiques that you have about yourself, these are going to be the things that are going to help you kind of move out of this. Ritual for me is a huge thing, psychologically speaking for me. I practice a lot of high magic. And again, going back to the definition of what I described high and low magic. It's not to say low magic is bad or lesser. It's not. It's just a different thing for a different reason. That's it. Don't read too far into it. I practice a lot of high magic. I will sit in ritual meditation, specifically ritual meditation. I start a ritual and I go into a meditative state, ritual meditation, right? And I will stay in ritual meditation for as long as I feel needed. Sometimes it's a half an hour. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Sometimes I'm in ritual meditation for 3-4 hours. That has helped my psyche so much over the years to be able to connect with the spiritual on that level, to receive those messages and those ideas that they present, the information they want to teach, being able to have access to that really, really helped me so much. I do not think that ritual or meditation is a one-all, cure-all. I do not believe that that is possible, because I also have a therapist. And in my personal opinion, I think every motherfucker on this planet should have a therapist. Like, let me just put that. I don't give a shit if you live the most normal fucking life and were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I think every motherfucker on this planet needs to have a therapist, regardless of what you have or have not gone through in your life. Right? I think having a therapist and somebody that can clinically speak to you about the things that are going on in your brain and help you guide that minefield, because let's face it, sometimes the human brain is just an absolute minefield, is imperative to personal success. So there's that part of it. What else? Well, I think hopefully that answers your question, right? See, that's the precise reason you should release the book, Adius. And remember, you can always release revised versions and preface. You know what, Grey Mage? I have not actually thought about that. I've not actually thought about that. And you are 100% correct. I will take that under advisement. I will take that under advisement. Let us continue. White magic is supposedly utilized only for good or unselfish purposes. The black magic, we are told, is used only for selfish or evil reasons. Satanism draws no such dividing line. Magic is magic. Be it used to help or hinder, the Satanist, being the magician, would have the ability to decide what is just and then apply the powers of magic to attain his goals. And again, this is something that is very not just seen in Satanism, but also the left-hand path. So magic is nor good nor evil. It is the intention of the practitioner that dictates whether or not the action is evil. And how do we define evil? So evil is not as easy as of a term to kind of define as people may think. One of the things that we run into when we talk about good and evil is, so a lot of people, I like to use an extreme example just to kind of help with the polarity of it, and just so it's easier to define the line, I suppose, or blur it maybe, is if somebody breaks into your home, at least if you live in the United States. Other countries, this is different. But in the case of the United States, if you're in a state like Texas or Florida or something like that has a castle law, somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them and you kill them. You're not trying to kill them, but you shoot them to detain them, and they end up dying on the scene, right? You essentially committed murder in self-defense because you had an intruder in your home, right? So we can define that murder is bad, but killing somebody in defense of yourself and your family isn't evil. You did a bad thing in the name of self-preservation. Some people don't have money. Some people are poor. Some people are in bad situations. Some kids have shit parents that, don't take care of them. Kids get hungry. They go to the store. They steal a fucking ramen. Stealing is bad. But again, in the name of self-preservation, right? Is that kid really stealing that ramen a bad thing? It's still illegal, but the kid's starving. Circumstance and situation, intention is extremely important. And these are all aspects of things that need to be looked at. We try to see the world as if it's black and white, and it's not. There's so many gray areas inside of everything. It is not that black and white. It is not good and bad. Do this, don't do this. Because those that follow the letter of the law to the T, unwaveringly, are the worst kind of tyrants. Because the law, though created to keep control over humanity, doesn't take into consideration humanity itself, or empathy or compassion, which is why it is a system that needs to be aided with human intervention. And hopefully the human intervention, the judge, the lawyer, the cop, have enough humanity themselves to understand when the letter of the law needs to be bent. Because in this universe, in this world, there are no absolutes. There just simply isn't. One of my favorite, I guess the term now would be memes, but that's not really a meme because a meme is a comical kind of thing, but that I've seen floating around social media is if you saw somebody steal food, no, you didn't. I mean, shit, I go further than that. I've seen somebody steal socks right in front of my face in a Walmart. Dude went fucking red when he saw me. I'm just like... He laughed and left. I don't know what the fuck dude's situation is. I don't know if he's getting those socks for his kid or for himself because he doesn't have socks for work. Right? Looks like he was working construction, work boots, dirty work boots, paint on his jeans. Looks like he's doing some type of construction work, right? So it's like, maybe, dude, it's like, I mean, dirty, sweaty fucking socks, causes foot rot, man. That's going to put dude in the fucking hospital and he can't support his family. I don't know if he has a family, but I'm just assuming he does. I don't give a shit. Store's insured on that stuff. I don't care. So if it's out of necessity, if it's out of survival, I see nothing. Because the biggest thing about being human is survival. That's what we're all doing. Every day. The one thing that we're trying to do is survive. That's it. Good and evil are subjective and based off of the intention of the person. If you kill for your own personal survival, in defense of yourself and defense of your family, that's self-defense. It's not murder. If you kill for pleasure, then we can draw the line to say that now we're getting into the realm of what evil potentially is. Because now we're not talking about survival. Because one of the things that we understand in the left-hand path is that though we are allowed to do whatever the fuck we want, you want to curse somebody, curse them. You want to hex somebody, hex them. Your own karma will come back to you. You will create your karma If you are a decent human being, if you need to hex somebody to protect yourself, then that's self-defense. That's not evil. The intention is important. You hex someone because they're trying to hurt you. That's self-defense. You hex somebody for shits and giggles. Again, now we're starting to kind of cross that line. We understand that we're allowed to do whatever we want, but we need to be respectful of the universe. What does that mean? Being respectful of the universe. Everything around us is alive. Everything around us is in constant movement, in a state of evolution. And because everything is alive and everything is breathing to some degree, even the trees are breathing. They just reversed from us. They're the reason we can breathe. Everything has that connection inside of our ecosystem. The planet as a whole, in and of itself, is an ecosystem for humanity. And humanity is a part of that ecosystem, meaning that your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your mother, your friends, your teachers, myself and you, we're all part of that ecosystem. And exactly what Lady Tessa just said, the ripple effect. What you do inevitably sends out ripples and will affect the people around you. Now, again, this goes back to consequence. I always talk about consequence. Action has consequence. Consequence isn't necessarily a bad thing. Consequence is just consequence. Your interpretation of the consequence that you're receiving dictates whether or not it is good or bad for you. Because, again, going back to the situation where somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them and you kill them, okay? If the person breaks into the house and you're not home and they steal all your shit, well, the consequence is good for them if they don't get caught, right? Because now they got a bunch of shit that they can sell to make money. They did a bad thing, but the consequence is good for them. The consequence is bad for you because now you come home and you don't have your shit that you've worked for and you saved for and you spent money on. It's all gone. Now, put you in the house. Somebody breaks in to steal your shit. You shoot them, they die. Right? Consequence bad for them. Their life ended. Consequence good for you. You're safe, and so is your shit. Consequence, depending on interpretation, is good or bad. Inevitably, a positive consequence for you can potentially have a negative impact on somebody else. And we cannot mitigate that 100%. When we're working with hexes and curses and things like that, we cannot 100% mitigate the ripple effect that this is going to have on the people around us and the people around the person that we're working against. There's no possible way to mitigate it 100%, which is why I have no problem if you do curses and you do hexes. Make sure that it's worth it. Because the affected area is significantly larger. And this goes with everything in your life. Everything you do in your life, every choice you make, from the moment that you wake up in the fucking morning until you go to sleep at night, every decision you make throughout your day, no matter how insignificant, has an inevitable ripple effect in the world around you. Some of it insignificant and really doesn't affect anything in a really grand scheme way. Some things might. But one of the things that we learn in the left-hand path is to be conscious. Wow, I can't talk now. To be aware. Thank you. I know that there's a word that I'm looking for that I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah. You know, to be aware of the things that we're doing throughout our day. Now, there's going to be obviously things that, we don't think about, right? Eating, pissing, shitting, taking a shower. Thank you. Yes, that right there. Conscientious. Spelling. Yeah, you know what I was talking about. You know what I was saying. I knew it came out wrong, and I heard it, and I was like, nope, that's not the word. It's not it. It's close, but it's not it. So, and it's how you know this is live. So, being aware of the decisions that you make throughout your day is extremely important, because those decisions that you make are inevitably going to affect people around you. And inevitably, it circles around. Like, it's not karma. It's not karma. But when you do something, using the ripple effect, for example, that Lady Tessa talked about, there are two levels of consequence that happen when you create a ripple effect. If we talk about a stone in water, I'm sure you guys have heard this analogy before. So when you throw a rock into a river or a lake, the first and the initial part is the ripple effect, right? So it hits, it impacts, and the water ripples. And depending on how hard and how big the rock is, it depends on how big and vast, the ripple effect is. But then the part that you don't see is how that rock going to the bottom, to the bed of that lake, has now forever changed that lake. You have forever changed it. And even if you went down into the bed of the lake to get that rock back, to try to bring it back to the state that it was in, it potentially hit other rocks and moved those out of place to where they were. It moved dirt out of the way. It created an indentation. A million different things could have happened that you didn't see and that you weren't aware of. So we need to be aware of those consequences. And again, consequence is not necessarily a bad thing. That change might have been good. It might have been a good change. It might not have been. It is essentially open to your interpretation the value of the change that you're trying to achieve. Your magic is not good or evil. Your intention are. Your intentions dictate whether what you're doing is good, positive, or evil. I have not read House of Leaves. I've never even heard of it before today. Let's see if we can get one more paragraph in here. Ooh. I must have got the book wet a little bit. Ooh, that's not good. Excellent book, must read. I will definitely look into it. I love to read. Exactly. During white magical ceremonies, the practitioners stand within a pentagram to protect themselves from the evil forces which they call upon for help. To the Satanist, it seems a bit two-faced to call on these forces for help, while at the same time protecting yourself from the very powers you have asked for assistance. The Satanist realizes that only by putting himself in league with these forces can he fully and unhypocritically utilize the powers of darkness to his best advantage. In a satanic magical ceremony, the participants do not join hands and dance, ring around the rosy in a circle, burn candles of various colors for various wishes, call out the names of Father, Son, and Holy Ghost while supposedly practicing the black arts, pick a saint for their personal guide to obtaining help for their problems, dunk themselves in smelly oils and hope the money comes in, meditate so they can arrive at a great spiritual awakening, recite long incantations with the name of Jesus thrown in for good measure, between every few words, etc., 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 ad nauseum. Because this is not the way to practice satanic magic. If you cannot divorce yourself from hypocritical self-deceit, you will never be successful as a magician, much less a Satanist. And so this right here is extremely, I think that this aspect of the book here in my opinion, is very important. One of the first things that I tell anyone that works with me or wants to learn from me, the first thing that I tell everyone, you need to break away from your Judeo-Christian tradition. You need to break away from Abrahamic belief. You need to break away from it. Exactly, Mr. West, exactly. And I appreciate your support. Like, even if you're just lurking, it is a podcast essentially, right? So, you know. So I just lost my train of thought. I had it, and then I lost it. It's okay. It's okay. We're getting on that time. It's an hour anyway. But when I always tell people when we're first starting out is you need to break away from the Abrahamic beliefs. You need to break away from that. Because holding on to Christian values, Christian ideals, or even what you believe to be good and evil, if you look at it through a Christian lens, you're never going to really, truly break through on the other side of the shit. And another thing that I always tell people, a cult is uncovering the hidden. Working with the Ars Goetia and trying to play demonic Pokemon is not uncovering hidden anything. Because these are things that have already been released and talked about and worked with and overly done. I cannot tell you how many people out there are working with Belial that can't even say his fucking name right. Everyone's Belial. It's Belial. 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 No. They can't even say his fucking name right. And they treat him like... They act like the dude's their fucking their spiritual boyfriend. Right? Like, that's what they act like. Like, yeah, he's always with me. He always protects me. He did When you work with these things, they don't give a fuck about you. It is a transactional relationship. You can become close, yes, but it is a symbiotic relationship. It is a symbiotic relationship. I am a dedicant of Baphomet. I have no illusions that Baphomet's my best friend and we're homies and, you know, we're going to hit up the barbecue next week. No. It's not how it fucking works, man. It's not how it works. These things are light years ahead of us. And at most, fucking with us is entertaining. It is a transactional relationship. Okay? When you work with these entities, you think of it this way. Best analogy I can think of. We are ants to these things, okay? So if you go into your kitchen, or you got some crumbs on your desk like I do, and you got ants running around, what are you going to do? You're going to clean up your desk, smash some ants, and be done with it, right? Okay, cool. Go into your kitchen and see a group of ants dancing around in a circle chanting your name. And tell me you wouldn't fucking stop and look at them and be like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? Right? And then one of those fucking ants is going to pop out and say, I got you. And with the crystals that I have, you can't move. And you're just going to be like, okay, sure, whatever. Out of pure curiosity's sake, you're just not going to move. You're going to entertain the motherfucker, right? And you guys go, what do you want? And guess what? These ants, some of them, you know what? It's going to be super simple requests. They're going to ask for a pile of sugar, some shit like that, maybe kill this other ant that's fucking pissing me off kind of thing, right? And so what do? You oblige. Why? Because you want to see how far it's going to go. You want to see, how far that this is going to go, right, with the ants, right? Because they're fucking talking to you. They're chanting your fucking name. It's some crazy ass shit, right? What do you think happens with these fucking things when we do a ritual? We're the fucking ant, right? You're sitting down in front of a bunch of candles saying a motherfucker's name. He's walking in the kitchen. He's like, what the fuck's going on here? That's essentially what we're working with here. Okay? That's essentially what we're working with here. We don't know the extent of what these beings get from us. Let's be completely honest. We leave wine and bread. We cut ourselves and put some blood on a sigil to charge it, right? Which has, more of an alchemical kind of aspect to it rather than a magical spiritual one. But we really don't know 100% what these things are getting from us when we're working with them. Let's be completely honest, because they're not going to tell us. As long as we're getting that pile of sugar, we don't give a fuck. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that they're getting a little extra out of us, right? As long as it's a transactional relationship and the aspect that we're asking for, we're getting, we have no room to bitch and complain. Right? But it is an energetic transaction. You ever wonder why you feel tired after a ritual, after a tarot reading, right? After a spell? The popular belief is, well, you exerted energy, right? I exerted energy and now I'm tired, right? That's part of it, but it doesn't explain the full spectrum of the exhaustion that happens after a 3-4 hour ritual of just sitting there. It's because it is a energy exchange. You're not just pushing energy out there, you're giving energy. This is why I say the most valuable sacrifice that you can give to any deity, any entity, is your time, because you don't get it back. Your energy will recharge. Your time doesn't come back. Right? You want to keep cutting your thumb and smearing it on the sigils and shit? I mean, sure, go for it. If it works, it works. Alchemically, it makes sense. I'll leave out wine for an offering, right? I do wine, right? Like to Baphomet. I will leave a cup of wine as an offering to Baphomet. But I know he doesn't give two shits about it. It's to make me feel better. Gladly give my time, energy, effort, and blood, and many other offerings. Yeah, I mean, for many, that's how it is. For many, that's how it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Don't misunderstand me. I'm definitely not saying you shouldn't. It's the price that we pay for the relationships that we have. But we need to understand the level of these relationships. These people that are sitting there thinking that, they're best fucking friends with Lilith and Lucifer and fucking, shit like that. It's like, you need to take a step back, because it doesn't work that way. I know for a fact that my relationship with Baphomet is 100% transactional, and Baphomet is highly indifferent. Like, that's the one thing, I think that's the one reason why people give so much shit to Baphomet and prefer to say he's not real. That he's just a representation. Because he's highly indifferent. Whether you succeed, live, die, it is the movement of the universe and your life, how you live it. Doesn't give a shit. Baphomet is not the entity that you want to call on because you want a fucking car or a new house or you want to fuck that peg leg bitch over at the fucking 7-Eleven. It's not the entity that you're going to call for that shit. Highly indifferent. But when it comes to high magic and when it comes to actually opening up the mind and seeing shit that you can't find anywhere else, yes, Baphomet is where you want to go. You want gnosis, you want occult knowledge, you really want to uncover shit that no one else has uncovered yet, Baphomet is definitely the route to go. Uh-huh. So, anyway, I thank you all for coming here. Ace the Goblin, Mr. West, Candace, Nocturne, Paperclip, Evie, all of you. And as we begin, we end, right? Hail Satan, hail Lilith, hail Lucifer, hail Pyman, hail Baphomet, and as always, hail thy fucking self. And I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace the fuck out.